seasons turned. Kofi studied hard. And one day, he returned, not as the poor boy people once mocked, but as a doctor. He built a small clinic beside the village market, so that no mother would lose a child to fever, the way so many in the village once had. The villagers gathered and praised him. But Kofi only bowed his head and said, "My strength is my mother's strength. She carried me on her back, but she also carried this future in her hands." The people who once gossiped fell silent. And Nadia, the abandoned woman, the one they pitied, became the pride of the village. Her name lived on, not because her husband stayed, but because her courage did. Years later, one of the villagers who had moved to the city ran into Kofi's father. They greeted each other politely, and the villager said, "Your son has grown into a remarkable man. He has built a clinic in the village, and is helping the people." Kofi's father lowered his eyes, shame heavy on his face. He spoke quietly. "I have heard of it, but I have been too ashamed to return. When I first went to the city to find work, I met a wealthy woman who offered me a job. As I worked for her, she deceived me. She lied, saying that Nadia, my wife, was a witch and the cause of my misfortune. I was confused, misled, and carried away by her riches, and so I ignored Nadia and stayed with her. But after all these years, we have no child. And still, I have been too ashamed to face the life I left behind." The villager returned to the village and told Nadia everything. She listened quietly, her eyes calm, her spirit unshaken. She had raised her son alone, built her life from hardship, and created hope where there was none. And so, the village learned this truth: no deceit, no absence, and no misfortune could break the courage of a mother. Nadia's strength had carried her son, her home, and her people, and that was a legacy no one could ever take away. After waiting for years with the hope that Kofi's father would one day return, Nadia's patience slowly turned into sorrow. She had given her youth to waiting, but he never came back. The tears she cried in the silence of her nights were countless, yet she never gave up caring for her son. Life was not easy, but she kept her dignity and faith. Time passed, and when it became clear that the man she once loved would never return, fate opened a new door. In the city, a wealthy man named Khalid lived with his young son. He was a single father, respected by many and blessed with riches. He owned one of the biggest hospitals in the city, a grand building admired by all. But though it was beautiful and filled with modern machines, it lacked what was most important: good doctors with true skill and compassion. One day, he heard of a village clinic that was known far and wide. People said the clinic had doctors who could heal even the worst sickness, and no patient was ever turned away. Curious and hopeful for his relative's treatment, he decided to make the long journey to the village. When his car stopped outside the clinic, he stepped out, expecting nothing unusual. But then, as he walked towards the gate, he saw her. Nadia. She was just coming out of the clinic, carrying a small bag in her hand. Her dress was simple, but her beauty shone like the morning sun. The man froze for a moment, his eyes fixed on her gentle face. She looked strong, yet there was a sadness in her eyes that touched his heart. He found himself speaking before he could stop. "Excuse me," he said softly, "are you from this village?" Nadia paused, a little surprised. "Yes, I am. Good afternoon, sir." Her voice was calm and respectful. The man smiled. "Good afternoon. I just came here for the clinic. But may I ask, do you come here often?" Nadia nodded. "Yes. The clinic has helped many of us in the village. It is a blessing." He looked at her again, this time longer. Something about her presence stirred something inside him. He turned to a nurse standing nearby and whispered, "Who is that lady?" The nurse smiled knowingly. "That is Nadia. She has lived in this village for years. A good woman, very humble." The man's heart was already moved. He approached her again, carefully. "My name is Khalid," he said warmly. "I live in the city, but I hope to visit here more often. Maybe, if you don't mind, I would like to know you better." Nadia lowered her eyes, shy but polite. "I don't know what to say, sir. But thank you for your kindness." From that day on, Khalid found reasons to return to the village. Sometimes for the clinic, sometimes just to pass by and greet Nadia. He spoke to her with respect, never rushing her, never pushing. Slowly, her heart began to open. Months later, he asked for her hand in marriage. After many years of waiting and sorrow, Nadia finally found herself in the arms of a man who valued her. In his home, she was cherished like a queen, her pain replaced with joy, her loneliness with love.